Let's go.
Hey everyone, Bardi Toto here with the podcast. Actually, it's the first podcast of the year, and I am honored, beyond honored, to have the first interview with Walker Hayes. And we were just talking about gratitude, but I want to dive in. Walker Hayes, you're known for your number one single. It's been on the chart 19 weeks. That is crazy, which is fancy like. And then AA is number one on iTunes, and it's become number one. And you know what I love about your music is that you write from the heart, and you write from hurts that you've had, and you have no shame. And I have seen probably all your interviews. I've watched them about Fancy Like and Applebee's, but today I really want to go to a different level. Disrupt Your Brand is about interviewing people that are going against the grain, doing something different, being a light to the world, to be an inspiration, because right now we need it. I mean, with everything that's going on, there's too much darkness. And so like myself with the gratitude piece, I try to be a light to people. And it's nothing but God that has done this for me. And what we were talking about earlier, same with you. And what I love about your story is, you, with your wife, Lainey, you moved from Mobile, Alabama, correct me if I'm wrong, to Nashville 17 years ago. And you immediately, got a record deal, and then you were dropped. And you started drinking, and it went downhill from there. And you even ended up having to get a job at Costco. And the reason that I tell this story is with everything that's happened the past couple of years, so many people have lost their jobs or lost people or lost hope. What I was sharing with you, even before COVID, I lost 8 people in 2 years. That's a lot of people. And your story is so inspirational. One thing I love about you, and I have worked with so many musicians, entertainers, everyone in the world. And I hate to say a lot of them, and I hope I don't offend anyone, they talk about themselves, and there is a very sense of arrogancy. With yourself implementing your dance with TikTok and engaging with your fans and, making comments, that is a form of gratitude. And you're doing something different than everyone else. You've actually brought light to the world. I know you probably don't see like, oh, I'm just doing my music, I'm just doing my thing. But what you've done is you've gotten people happy to dance, to get out of this mindset of, the pandemic or COVID or the new variant or whatever the heck is going on in the world. And you made life fun, for everyone. And the bond and the engagement you have with your kids is just amazing. And I know it probably hasn't always been like that, but you are definitely a light. And so I want to say that because you've inspired me so much. And during this interview, I'm going to tell on myself, you don't have any judgment. You tell your story about, your past, about, being an alcoholic and drinking. And I think that's amazing because most people have a fear of judgment. They care what people think. Even myself, what I shared with you before is I was in a car accident a few years ago, and this is the first time on this podcast I've ever told anyone, because being an author, it's like I was afraid of being judged. Well, maybe she can't do business. And to be honest, I did end up getting dyslexia. I was seeing words backwards, and it's been that way for a long time. God has healed me of that now. But that's really scary. It'd be like a musician who got dyslexia and he couldn't read the music, So I want to talk to you about your journey, about your new book coming out, especially about Craig. Be a Craig, which is like give. Because right now in the world with what we're doing, it's so much not giving, it's taking. And we have forgotten what gratitude is, or to even give, because we're about me, I got to make money, I got to get my album out, I got to get my CD out, but nobody cares about anybody else. So I want you to share your story, even though I've heard it before. when you came from Mobile, Alabama, and you got your first record deal, what happened, and how that drove you to Craig and a higher level, because I want to hear it from you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoot, I'll try to be as concise and only tell the good parts, but
I want to hear it's good to tell the bad parts too.
Yeah, no, well, there's a lot of bad part. I mean, Lainey and I, we moved to Nashville on a complete whim. I didn't grow up wanting to do music. I started drinking when I was 13, so that was I brought that with me from Mobile, and again, Lainey and I, we just moved here completely on a whim. My dad got me my first gig in Mobile at a bar, and it didn't make sense at all. I wasn't very talented, but I loved it. And so I was kind of scheduled to sell real estate with him in Mobile. But when I played this show, it changed my life. And I called Lainey. We were engaged when I played this show. I was 23. And I said, hey, you want to move to Nashville? And we did. And it was wild. Every time I tell that story, I truly am thinking to myself, man, we were idiots. And so we, I had dinner with her parents the next week, and I said, hey, our plans have changed. And I could tell they were very concerned, laughably, it was laughable that we would decide to do that. But I think their outlook was, hey, you're young, so you can afford to make massive mistakes like that now. So go ahead and get them out of your system, I think. And so we moved up here, and like you said earlier, Nashville wasn't that difficult of a town for me. I got a publishing deal in a year. I supported us with a great job for a year as a booking agent for speakers, motivational speakers, and I learned a lot about the behind the scenes business. I probably was kind of arrogant at that time in my life because the publishing deals, the record deals came fast. It wasn't until I got dropped from my first record deal that kind of the ice around me began to break. I wasn't, my arrogance began to get chipped at, and that was just real life, and I got dropped from one record label, but I continued, and Lainey and our family grew. We had our first daughter, Leela, in 2005. So real quick, we were building a family, and I was writing songs. And then I got a second record deal around, 7 or 8 and 07, 08. And me and the label, we butted heads. I thought I knew everything. And, they showed me otherwise. We went to radio with some singles, did absolutely nothing. And I got dropped again, and then, the pride got shattered even more. It was like, okay, what's wrong with me? I thought for sure I had it, I had it made and stuff like that. And things got tough, money got real tight. I was making less and less sense to my peers and my family, in the meantime, I'm not a believer. I think in my mind, Jesus is a hoax. I'm like, I think every Christian I know basically believes in Santa Claus. That's kind of what my thought process was on that. But, Lainey and I continued, and about 10 years after being in Nashville, I was just down, but I continued to write. My passion was writing songs, and I love my family. I love my wife and kids, and I struggled each day with how am I being the best dad? Is it by chasing this elusive dream, or do I need to pack that up and be more responsible? Will I be more responsible? Will I be a better teacher to my kids if I get a normal job, and quit trying to be a musician, and it was tough, every day. But the funny thing is that I would take all those emotions, and my therapeutic outlet was just to write a song about it, and And then, this is where we get to Craig. Lainey and I were pregnant with our sixth kid. We have one car. The air conditioner doesn't work. Everything's broken on it. It's being held up by thumbtacks that my daughter let me borrow.
How many years ago was this?
This was 7. And one night I'm playing a show. I'm drunk. I'm playing a show at Puckett's Boathouse, and this guy comes up to me. He tells me he works at Costco. His name was Nick Kanger, and he was very, very sweet, but it was such a humbling experience. He wanted my autograph, but I needed a job at Costco, and it was really, I will never forget it. I was brought to my knee. I mean, I will never forget that night, signing his napkin and then saying, "Hey, can you talk to the people at Costco for me?" That was a humbling moment. But that humbling moment is one of 1,000. I mean, like I said, I talk about getting dropped like it's no big deal, because it is to me now. But at the time, I mean, Lainey and we experienced rejection on so many levels. I mean, I was rejected by labels. I was dropped by labels. I was on Nashville Star, didn't make it. I've tried out for Broadway plays, come so close, didn't make it. I've auditioned for movies, didn't make it. I've been cut from every single thing you could possibly be cut from. I've been fired. I mean, honestly, I think my body, whatever that thing is in your brain that reacts negatively to rejection, I think life broke it. I think I'm almost numb to the pain of failure, which is actually it's actually good for me, at this point. Failure doesn't, you talk about me being shameless. I mean, I think it's because I've just been cut, rejected, dumped, fired. It's so many times that but I continue to write songs about it, instead of thinking, oh, I need to change direction, and there were obviously things I did need to change. But so Lainey and I'm working at Costco from 4 a.m. till noon. And then I go and I write every day. And then I would play shows. And man, we met this guy named Craig. I'm talking about the Lord literally just put him at this place and time in our life where we needed rescuing. And so Craig's wife invites Lainey. We're at one of my son's basketball games, and Craig's wife Laura invites us to a church they've started. I couldn't stand church, and I was actually frustrated that I thought we were done with that chapter in our life, the whole visit a church, phase that we all go through. And
trying to search for something.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I'm so sad to say this, but I was excited that maybe even Lainey was past that. I mean, she's a believer, but she was cold then, and we were just kind of going through the motions of life. We were always tired. We had lots of babies and bills we couldn't pay. So we were kind of focused there. And but Laura invited Lainey to church at one of Chapel's basketball games. And you guys, I'm telling you, when we drove to this, they met on a Saturday night, and they met in this very, very just cultish looking building in the middle of nowhere. I actually laughed when we drove up. I said, maybe we should call somebody and tell them where we are before we all go missing. And Lainey laughed, the kids laughed, but we walked in there, and this guy named Craig, Laura's husband, who was a pastor at this church, he walked up to me and he said, "I'm glad you're here." And this sounds silly. I didn't think this that night, but as I reflect, I'm not a very knowable person, which is funny. You applauding my exposing of our house and my failures and my trial. What's funny is that is so Christ and so not me. You don't even have any idea, because Craig, I could just tell the way he looked in my eyes that night. He knew I was drunk. He knew I didn't want to be there. He knew literally that sitting in that church